Okay, welcome on this sunny Sunday, a bit of sunshine we've got today, which is great. So I didn't introduce myself last time, I realised. So I'm Lucinda Button, I live in Leradora. I'm a spiritual life coach for women on the journey to awakening and healing, the transformational journey. Today I'm going to talk a bit about mindfulness and embodiment, and then as we did last week, about 15 minutes talking roughly, and then roughly a 15-minute meditation at the end. So first of all, mindfulness. It's been a real buzzword around in both business and non-business circles for many years, and a little bit of where mindfulness came from. So it's a Buddhist practice. It comes from Buddhism, although it was kind of like made, what's the word when it's not a faith? Can't think of the word. Like when something hasn't got any religion attached to it. So it became mindfulness because it had evidence base, and so lots of organizations started using it with their employees. But essentially, you know, it's a practice of noticing, and it can be called mindfulness, it can be called conscious awareness, it can be called the I am witness, it can be called presence, embodiment. You know, it's all the same thing, really. It's all about becoming more deeply aware of ourselves in the moment, our experience of life, our thoughts, our feelings, our bodies, all of it. Just becoming more conscious and more awake, like it's a spectrum. Like when we're asleep at night, we're asleep, and like when we're enlightened, or whoever is ever enlightened, Buddha, Jesus, you know, at one end of other end of the spectrum. And it's about just deepening towards this way, like more waking up, more becoming conscious, more presence, becoming more presence. And there's lots of ways into being more present, being more mindful. And I think I said last time, the word mindfulness, mindful, I'm not a fan of it, because I'd rather it was called like heartfulness or embodiment, because mindful as a word on its own, mindful is about really like being careful with our thoughts and careful with our actions, like thinking. It's kind of quite a mind word, mindful, but it's so much more than that. It encompasses a whole, you know, a whole human experience, not just our thoughts. That's the whole thing. It isn't just our thoughts. And so the breath is always a really good way in, because our breath is always happening. We're always breathing. At any moment we can choose to stop, notice our breathing, take deep breaths even, and you know, really feel how that feels. So the breath is a really good way in. Hi, Lena. And often in Buddhism, where mindfulness comes from, the kind of classic meditation is to breathe in and out through the nose and notice how the air feels as it goes through past your nostrils and then out, cold in and warm out. So it's really about deepening presence through the breath. Breath is always a really great way. Through the body, so how our body feels, being in our body, noticing is basically the headline. It's noticing. So noticing how our clothes feel, stopping for a few moments and really listening and really tuning into all the sounds we can hear. Like I'm lucky enough here to have my doors open onto the balcony with the sea, so I can stop and I can notice the sea, the noise of the sea. Wherever you are, just stopping and really noticing for a couple of minutes, so that you really drop in, noticing the sounds. Or you can eat mindfully, where you really feel the knife. This is the thing with mindfulness or presence or noticing. It's not like where you have to sit in meditation. Your whole life can be a meditation. Whenever you catch yourself, catch a bit of consciousness and just really notice what you're doing. Washing up can be really mindful. Going for a walk, amazing. Grounding, noticing nature, noticing the sounds and the smells. But if you're mindfully eating, you can really notice how the cutlery feels in your hands, really notice even more how the food looks, the colours, the textures. Take one bite, look at it, smell it, put it in your mouth, and rather than often food, you know, especially if we're comfort eaters or emotional eaters, we can just, you know, scoff it down without even really noticing. I know this is one of my bad habits, and I know it's a common one, but if we slow down and we start to notice every moment, every experience we're having, then we're less likely to be run by an unconscious pattern like emotional eating when we're not very present. So all sorts of things, you know, a cup of tea, even making a cup of tea can become a sacred ritual or a route into being present. So choosing the tea bag, with, you know, noticing which one you want, looking, smelling, putting the kettle on, noticing your finger as you put the kettle on, and then being with yourself while the kettle's boiling, noticing your feet on the ground, noticing your breath, noticing how fast or slow the kettle boils and the steam comes out, pouring the tea, how the kettle handle feels in your hand. It's like basically amplifying and powering up being present, because the more we are able to do this and deepen this journey of presence and consciousness, mindfulness, whatever, the more we can show up in our lives and consciously choose our experiences, and how we experience life becomes a much more conscious dance rather than life happening to us. We are empowered. It's empowerment, really. This is a way to become empowered. So that's mindfulness. And then a little bit about embodiment, which is the same thing, really. But embodiment is about being in the body. So in the Western society, Western culture, a lot of people live in their heads, you know, like cut off at the neck, disembodied heads, I call it, floating heads. And I used to be like that, you know. It's kind of how we are conditioned and how we like are encouraged to be in this society, that we identify so strongly with our mind as thinking our mind is who we are, and our egoic mind, so like our ego in spiritual terms is who we think we are, the version of us we put out to the world. And so we are so strongly identified with this egoic mind and our thoughts. That's who we think we are, and we just live up here. And sometimes we aren't even in our head, we're kind of up here in like unconscious bubbles. We're out of our body in thoughts about the future, thoughts about the past. We're not in our body, fully embodied in the moment. And so becoming embodied is just the most marvelous, wonderful thing, because life is so much richer and just better. And so, yeah, like we think, what was it?
So I'm meditating, right, for half an hour. You'll have to come back in half an hour at 12 o'clock, okay?
And so that often, the reason that we often aren't in our bodies, we don't live in our bodies, is because our bodies are often uncomfortable places to be. Either because our nervous systems are stuck in a stress response, I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute, so they're kind of in that fight or flight, it just feels a bit anxiety-ish, or our bodies feel quite heavy with emotions. Like I'm not going to talk about it in great detail, but when we have triggers, when we're triggered, which is the world global scene is a real triggering event for lots of people at the moment for fear, but when something triggers us, these feelings that are just stuck in us that we haven't processed kind of come up. We're driven by that feeling, and so often we're full of feelings, so we don't want to be in our bodies because it feels uncomfortable if these stuck feelings often in this channel down our front. So our chakras, like our throat, heart, solar plexus, tummy, roots, like that, we can hold a lot of stuff. We're just not practiced at it often in our society, in Western culture, to be in our bodies. And so the journey into our bodies, it can be, I'd recommend to do it very gently, because often we can trigger stuff that's just in our bodies once we inhabit them. And I can talk more about that to anyone who kind of wants to delve deeper or understand more about that. I'm really happy to do that another time. Reach out to me. And again, if anything comes up that I'm talking about that you have questions or you'd like to explore, you know, having support on this journey in a deeper way, reach out to me. So, you know, when you're embodied, you can notice what's alive in you. So rather than just kind of like ignoring that sadness, that grief, that trauma, that pain, just ignoring it and just being up in our mind, we have to be with it and notice what is alive in us and be gentle and kind to it and let it be there. Because if we let feelings come and stay and then go, just like thoughts, we're processing. We're not chucking it in the emotional backpack, weighing us down because we haven't felt it. And often as children, there aren't many people of our generation, our parents' generation, who had parents who were very evolved. And I don't say this with any disrespect, I mean as in journey of consciousness. So often as children, we were taught to repress our feelings because they were taught to repress our feelings. Everyone's doing their best. Our parents were doing their best. We're doing our best with what we know and understand and awareness and all of that thing, our experience of life up to that moment. And like as children, if we cry, oh, you're okay, stop crying. Or anger's not really very welcome from children, you know, tantrums, whatever. But actually that's what happens then, is those feelings get repressed and stuck in us because our parents were having their old pains that are repressed, triggered. I'm going quite deep now actually. I didn't mean to go quite so deep, but yeah, I'm really happy to talk about this more with people if they want to. So ways to deepen embodiment. Moving your body, so dancing, yoga, stretching, grounding, noticing your feet on the ground, because the head is at the top, the feet are at the bottom. So the more awareness you can put into your feet, the more your noticing and awareness travels down into your body. Noticing where you have strength and where you feel safe and secure in your body. So putting awareness in your feet, in your spine, like in where you feel you have strength. Because if we become embodied, and we are used to then letting our feelings move through us, we can be more spacious and expansive rather than constricted. And the more spacious and expanded we are, the more we can hold more of our difficult feelings as they come. So with the world as it is now, if anxious thoughts come and feelings come in the body, if old grief or fear is triggered, we can be with it because we have more space in us. I hope that makes sense. Another good thing we can do to become embodied and to calm us is we can tap on the jaw. So this is a really good one at the moment. Often we hold tension in our jaw and then we don't breathe properly. So it doesn't take very long, a couple of minutes. I won't do it the whole time now, but just literally just like tap up and down the jaw gently. This isn't like EFT tapping. This is different. This is just to stimulate the muscle, saliva starts building up. And then if you do that for a couple of minutes, it will start relaxing. And then that relaxation will kind of like melt down into your body. So dancing in a very I said dancing, but really grounded dancing. So stamping, like walking as well, like really noticing your body as you're walking, because walking is very grounding. So yeah, let's have a look at that there. So that's embodiment. It's basically being in the body, and that's what the meditation is I'm going to guide you into today, is to become fully embodied. It's called a mindfulness body scan, but it's like an embodiment meditation. And one final thing I want to talk about, which I did mention last week, is nervous system regulation, because embodiment helps you feel calm. Excuse me, it helps your parasympathetic nervous system to come online. So a little bit of science, even if people heard it last week, it's always worth hearing it again, because sometimes things take a few times when we're learning new stuff. Is our autonomic nervous system has two states of being. It's either in the stress response, which is fight, flight, fear, fawn. Sorry, freeze, fawn. So fighting, arguments, flight, obviously running away, freezing, feeling stuck, fawning, people pleasing, making sure everyone else is okay, and then abandoning ourselves in the process. And the stress response, a lot of people live a lot of their life in stress response, especially if they're adrenaline junkies, workaholics, you know, all that kind of thing. And then the parasympathetic nervous system is the optimal state to be in for health and wellness, for physical health, mental health, spiritual health, all of it, emotional health. And it's the rest and digest nervous system, socially connected, calm, limbic system connected. And there's different things we can do to activate that, which I'll tell you about in a moment. But I just want to say at the moment, there are lots of people who are living in fight or flight, panic buying. That is being in a stress response. You know, constantly looking at social media and looking at the news, obsessing over conspiracy theories or the news, that's being stuck in stress response. And the stress response makes us go a bit unconscious because we're just stuck in that fear response and we can spiral with it. So we want to bring ourselves back. First of all, notice it's happening, being kind to ourselves that it's happening, not berating ourselves that we're in a stress response, and gently and kindly bring ourselves back to the moment, to whatever works for you, noticing the breath, moving the body, tapping on the jaw, breathing exercises, meditation, you know, whatever, journaling, whatever creativity, whatever feels good and you feel calm and rested and, you know, your body can digest food. And that's why when we go into fight or flight, you know, we can't digest food anymore. So the bowels might empty. we can't eat, we can't digest very well, we haven't got an appetite. That's a symptom of being in fight or flight, because our digestion's not working. So if you have digestive issues, then this is a really good thing to have awareness about and to power up the parasympathetic. Yes, a couple of things you can do. So to keep you in rest and digest, you can tap the jaw, grounding, which I've mentioned. And the other thing is lengthening the exhale. So when we breathe in, we're activating the stress response, the sympathetic. And when we breathe out, we're activating the parasympathetic. So what we can do is breathe in for 4, for example, and I'll put this in as a note in the somewhere in Facebook, wherever this event is. So you can breathe in for 4 through the nose, and then out slowly through the mouth for 8. And even lengthen it even more, as much as you can, building up to 8. Maybe you need to work a bit to kind of build it up. And then eventually you can hold the exhale for a couple of seconds. So you're really powering up and lengthening and amplifying the exhale and the breath at the end of the exhale, and making the inhale shorter, but not like anything like it's laboured, like really gently. So really gently in through the nose and gently out through the mouth. So no, I think I'm pretty much done for what I wanted to share before we went into the meditation. If anyone's got any questions, feel free to ask them now. You can unmute yourself.
Estoy haciendo una meditación. Sí. ¿Qué tal?
¿Te hace falta luz? Yo
Sí,
mañana voy a Mercadona.
sí.
¿Te traigo la bombona?
Sí.
Dime.
Me hace falta ir al banco.
There you go. I've muted Zena. Okay, so let's dive in. So if you gently close your eyes, notice where you're sitting, and are you feeling comfortable? Like these small little practices of noticing are all powering up consciousness. So, you know, rather than sitting in a chair that feels slightly uncomfortable, but you feel you have to, actually just get somewhere comfortable, maybe move, maybe lie down, whatever feels comfortable is practicing meeting your needs. Another time when I kind of talk about this is needing the toilet. Often, you know, we don't go to the toilet when we need it because we're in a conversation, or we kind of have to get this finished, or we, you know, whatever it might be, we feel like we have to do something for someone else. But actually, if we go to the loo as soon as we need it, we're meeting our needs. It's a small thing, but little things like that all are kind of clues to whether we're really showing up, experiencing our life with empowerment. Okay, so notice where you're sitting. Notice if you need to wriggle and get more comfortable. And first of all, notice your breathing. Notice your chest is rising and falling, and you might want to place your hands over your heart area or your chest to notice your chest rising and falling if it feels comfortable to you. Just notice the rhythm of your breathing, following it in and out, just as it is, without judging, just noticing. And if you do make a judgment, noticing you're judging, and that's okay. Notice if it's shallow, fast, slow, deep, with a good rhythm, or more higgledy-piggledy. Tuning into yourself in this moment. And let's take some of those regulating breaths in together. So in through the nose and out through the mouth, making the mouth small to lengthen the exhale. And keep going with the deep breathing for a few moments. And maybe on your next exhale, see if you can relax your jaw a little bit, relax your shoulders a little bit. Wherever you notice any tension, see if you can intentionally let a bit of that tension go. And then on the next exhale, see if there's some noise you want to make, like a sigh or just a letting it out. It's really helpful, the noise, making noise really releases and processes. Give yourself permission to make whatever noise you need to make. Then after the next exhale, let your breathing settle back into its new natural rhythm. And just notice how your breathing is now and the difference, if there is a difference. Notice if it feels more nourishing. You can notice your breath feels more expansive, deeper into your body, slower and more rhythmical maybe, or not. It's all fine. Whatever you're experiencing right now is always perfect for you in this moment. And now what I'm going to do is to lead you through a scan through your body. And there's no right or wrong, it's just as best you can. And when I direct you to an area of your body, all it means is for you to rest your awareness there, put your feeling awareness into that part of your body, turn it on with your feeling. So notice how it feels. That's it, just as best you can. So first of all, let's go up to the crown of the head, the very, very top of your head. Feel how the crown of your head feels. Notice the crown of your head. And then let that awareness follow down into your forehead, just as best you can. Noticing your forehead. And then noticing your eyes, your eyelids. And then your nose, your cheeks, your mouth, your lips, your tongue. And then your jaw and your chin, and see if there's any tension you need to relax in your jaw. Maybe your mouth needs to hang open slightly. And then your awareness goes down the front of your neck to your shoulders. And then your awareness runs down the back of your head. Put your awareness into the back of your head, into the back of your neck, and then into your shoulders. Just as best you can, rest your awareness in both your left and your right shoulder. And then let's take your awareness down your right arm, down past your right elbow, your forearm, your hand, your right hand, the palm of your hand, your fingers and the very tips of your fingers. And now the whole of your right arm. And then take your awareness up to your left shoulder, down your left arm, left elbow, down your left forearm, down to your hand, or up to your hand if it's on your heart. And then your palm of your left hand, your fingers and the very tips of your fingers. And really notice your hand, your left hand, the whole of your left hand. And then to your chest area, your heart area. And again, notice your chest is rising and falling. And notice that when you direct some attention into an area, how you really notice. How before maybe you were not noticing your chest was rising and falling, but now with conscious awareness and intention and focused noticing, your chest is rising and falling as you breathe. And then move your awareness down your trunk, so down your back, down your front, and notice if your back is against a chair. and how that feels. Notice you're connected to a surface that is not you, the chair that is supporting you. Notice the whole of your body that is connected to the chair. Really notice that connection with a surface that is not you, supporting you, and you can relax a little bit deeper into that support. You are supported. And then so noticing down your front, into your tummy, into your hips, just as best you can, your pelvic floor. And then from your hips, down your thighs, the front of your thighs, the back of your thighs, to your knees, down your shins and your calves, all the way down to your feet, both feet. And now really put your awareness into your feet, how they feel. Are they in a covering, like a shoe or a slip, shoes or slippers or socks, and how that feels? Do they feel warm or cold, comfortable or not comfortable? Really put your awareness into your feet and all the nerve endings on the sole of your feet, connecting you to, if your feet are on the ground, connecting you to the earth. The whole of the soles of your feet and the tips of your toes. And then as best you can, bring your whole body into your feeling awareness. Just as best you can, both your arms, both your hands, the whole of your head, whole of your face, your back, your legs, your feet, the whole of the front of you, the whole of the back of you, the whole of the inside of you. The whole of your body is online. You're in your body, embodied as best you can. And from this place, when we are embodied, we are inhabiting our body. We can notice our thoughts more clearly because there's some separation. We can notice our emotions. We notice our experience of life in a much deeper way, and we can consciously choose how we engage with our life and how we engage with other people from this place of presence. And notice if you have any thoughts coming. And then notice who is noticing. Who is noticing the noticing? The I am witness, who you really are beneath the thoughts, beneath the emotions, the truth of who you are. And this is the practice of meditation, being in this place when we're witnessing. Thoughts come, thoughts go. We can notice them come and notice them go. And sometimes we'll jump onto that thought cloud and we'll go on a little journey to another thought, another thought, another thought. And that's okay. It's a practice and that's what we do in life. We're human. That is okay. When we notice, we bring ourselves back. And that's the practice in meditation, but that's also the practice for life. The practice for life is noticing we're drifting off and bringing ourselves back. Life can be a living meditation. So if you want to just wriggle your body a little bit, maybe give thanks to yourself for this time you've made to focus on your well-being. Give thanks to the amazing technology of Zoom and technology in general that we can connect in these unusual times. Giving thanks to whatever it is you want to give thanks to. Maybe for me, it's the sound of the ocean that I can rely on. That's another thing we can always tune into if we're feeling anxious or starting to feel worried about things. We can tune into what we can rely on. I can rely on the waves coming in and out. I can rely on my breath. So yeah, if you want to wriggle around, and whenever you're ready, gently open your eyes. And it's bang on 12. I can't believe last week the timing was bang on. It's a miracle. So if anyone's got any questions or feedback or anything, feel free to unmute yourself and speak now, or, oh, there's something in the chat in Messenger, let me see.
Just to say thank you. Thank you very much.
My absolute pleasure, Joanna. Thank you for your thanks.
and hello to Vicky. My name is up there as Joanna Phil, but I'm Jo Ramsey-Well. I don't know why I'm up there as, okay.
Thank you.
Cool. And finally, if anybody, you know, would like some meditation coaching, mentoring, spiritual coaching, mentoring, you know, I'm here, reach out. It's what I do. So I'd love to connect. And if anyone wants to friend request to just be connected on Facebook, feel free. I'm as Lucinda Button. I'll be in the group, in the Costa Women group. So whatever you engage with next in your life today, this Sunday, whatever is coming next for you in your life, I hope you can meet it with more presence and more joy and more embodiment, and enjoy being in your bodies, enjoy moving. You know, there's a whole practice about being in our bodies with, you know, I don't want to go into a deep dive on this, but as women, we're conditioned in a soup of conditioning from birth about beauty and being female and attractive and all of that kind of thing, and bodies, what bodies should look like. That sometimes that's another reason why we don't want to be in our bodies. So, oh, thank you, Victoria says, happy Sunday, sunshine from Frigiliana rooftop. And to you, Victoria. And so sometimes that is a thing, that we don't want to be in our bodies because there's a bit of, we don't like our body, to be honest. And so, yeah, just came to me to say. So if anyone wants to reach out to me, feel free. And I've really enjoyed spending this time together. And I wish you well. Maybe see you next Sunday. Okay, bye.